Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2020 CAS-CIAC High School Student Leadership Conference. With such an unprecedented 2019-2020 school year, we felt it was our duty to provide a meaningful leadership experience for the resilient, dedicated student leaders of Connecticut. As you move forward to the next school year, the obstacles that you have overcome these past few months will shape you into the successful leaders that you are. As a part of your journey, the decisions you make will go a long way. We hope that our message today will help you to enhance your leadership skills in school, sports, activities, and most importantly, throughout your lives. We have a great lineup for you today. We will start off with a keynote from NFL, Pro, and Super Bowl champion Ray Rice. A meaningful presentation on decision-making from inCourage will follow. inCourage.com translates academic research into informative, impactful, and actionable content so athletes, coaches, and parents can understand one another and communicate more effectively in order to create a healthy culture. inCourage is a partner with CAS-CIAC and has provided videos and informative blogs to everyone for free. To close the program, we will have a conversation and Q&A session with clinical and sports psychologist, co-founder and partner of inCourage, Dr. Marianne Engel and Ray Rice. Questions for any of our presenters will be answered at the end as well. Be sure to stay tuned. This conference will be recorded for quality purposes. Please be aware that you can adjust your speaker view to your preference in the top right-hand corner. The Q&A messaging feature is located at the bottom of your screen. Please direct all questions to the Q&A and specify who your question is for. You will also find the chat feature at the bottom of your screen where you can make comments throughout the conference. If for some reason you lose connection to the webinar, please just rejoin again from the same link. The PowerPoint presentation will be made available to all registrants following the conference via email. We welcome you and hope that you enjoy the conference. Best wishes from CAS-CIAC and inCourage for the 2020-2021 school year. Now, it is with great pleasure that I introduce today's moderators. We have Beth Christensen, who is a recent 2020 graduate from Northwestern Regional High School in Winsted, Connecticut. Beth has participated in field hockey, tennis, and swimming. She was also a member of the debate team, Model UN, Mock Trial, Envirothon, FFA Vice President, and served on the 2020 State Student Advisory Council on Education. She will be attending Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts this fall. A fun fact about Beth is that she enjoys working on and repairing bicycles. We also have Justin Oquendo, who will be a senior at Creek Civic Leadership High School in Enfield, Connecticut. Justin participates in cross country, basketball, and baseball. A fun fact about Justin is that he loves barbecue wings. Please join me in welcoming your student moderators, Beth and Justin.
Hi everyone, my name is Beth.
Hello everyone, my name is Justin, and we're going to start introducing with Ray Rice. Ray Rice is a 3 all-time pro NFL running back who helped lead the Baltimore Ravens to win the Super Bowl in 2013. He played in 3 Pro Bowls, received 2 All-Pro selections, and is ranked as the Ravens' second all-time leading rusher. According to an article in the Baltimore Sun, Mr. Rice was a player whose dazzling runs on the field and anti-bullying efforts off it and had endeared him to Ravens Nation. Mr. Rice attended New Rochelle High School in New Rochelle, New York, where he led the Huguenots to win the 2003 football state championship. At Rutgers University, Mr. Rice played football for the Scarlet Knights. Rutgers had its first winning season in 25 years in Mr. Rice's freshman year. He currently spends time in his hometown of New Rochelle speaking to youth groups and mentoring teens and young adults, and serving as a volunteer assistant with the New Rochelle High School football team. Mr. Rice is very involved in many aspects of youth football and speaks to high school and college level football players at schools around the country. He is the commissioner of the Metro North NY Football and Cheer Charter, which has 9 teams in the Northeast region. Mr. Rice was raised by his mother, Jeanette Rice, and he and his wife, Janae, live in Connecticut with their 2 young children.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ray Rice. It's truly an honor to be here today. I want to thank CAS, the CIAC, and inCourage for giving me the platform. Today is a very special day for me because I get to give you an experience that comes down to decision making, but I get to paint a picture of my life. And I'm going to do that by going to a movie, or not a movie, a TV show called This Is Us. So if you know a little bit about that, I'm going to go forward, forecast, and I'm going to come back. But I'll start with one of my favorite quotes that I kind of live by. And I'm thankful for all the things that were just said about me in terms of success. And one of my favorite quotes I use is, "Success is failure turned inside out." So with that being said, going to my story a little bit, I started playing football when I was 7 years old. I was raised by my mother in a single parent household, and all I knew was sports. And as I grew up, I realized that I use sports as my way out. And I know some people that don't use sports as a way out. They use it, for building, for camaraderie with their teammates, and, just connecting with people. But I knew that I wanted sports as my way out. I actually forecasted my future. At 11 years old, I started paying bills. And when you're thinking of an 11-year-old paying bills, you start to, to me, that was probably normal. But I forecasted my future. I told my mom at 11 years old that I was going to make it. I'm gonna get us out. We're going to be okay. I'm the oldest of 4. Just to give you a little briefing, I have 2 younger brothers, 1 sister, and grew up in a very blended household. And my dad was shot and killed when I was not even 1. So as the story goes on, you realize that when something's missing, what you put in place of it can be something that you got to be careful what you put in place of that missing piece. And my drive for sports, in high school, I was really good, became all-state, won everything. But I'm realizing that there were things going on in the household that just didn't add up. I would see things like my mom being in, bad relationships and things like that. And like, what did I do? What did I do during that time? I was the oldest kid. What did I see? And the things that I seen, I ran from. But I ran to sports. It's funny how I was a running back, right? And literally that's what I was doing my whole life, was running. But I was very successful. See, the success that I had on the field really made it hard to understand that I was heading down a dangerous path, because I became to normalizing abnormal things. And the one thing I never did was ask for help. And asking for help is one of the things I felt like is a weakness. So for going forward a little bit now I'm at Rutgers University. And the success is continuing. I told my mom at 11, I'm going to get you out. Now, at Rutgers, it became something the success was, I was Heisman Trophy candidate, and it got to a point where I couldn't even go to class without getting stopped for a picture or autograph. That kind of success I just wasn't used to. And I know this group of kids in here. I know you all have dreams, and I'm a big believer of living your dreams. I do believe you can live them out. But I also know that one or two bad decisions in life, your dream can become a nightmare. So in college, I was faced with a big decision, right? And the decision was, do I go to the NFL or do I stay in school? And some people might say, wow, that's an easy decision. But that decision for me was a very hard decision, because prior to the NFL, all those years before of running from things of just asking for help, I made a decision to go to the NFL because my last college game, reality hit. And reality was, when I came home, I realized that I no longer had a bedroom anymore in our little apartment in the projects. And I said, wow, I think it's time. I got to go to the NFL. I told my mom I was going to make it. The only problem is I never took care of myself, but I made sure that she was okay. And so I decided to go to the NFL. I get drafted. And I met someone in high school who's I'm very fortunate to be married to, with 2 kids. And she was with me my whole NFL career. And in the NFL, the success continues. The success continues. It keeps getting better and better and better. And all those instances where you forget to deal with problems, there's a moment that says you have to sit down. And I met my wife, Janae, in high school. And I'll give you an example of how I kind of dealt with problems. And when you have things that you become patterns of behavior don't change. So if I seen a problem, I never addressed it, I end up going to do something else. Well, in the NFL, it never changed. My success and my financial status changed, but in terms of dealing with problems, never changed. So to give you an example of a week of an NFL, my wife, let's just say we played on a Sunday. Monday, we're going for lifting. Tuesday would be community day. It was technically an off day, but there's no off days in the NFL. And but you were allowed to go out into the community. So I love being out in the community and helping the kids. But Wednesday is a very important day. So I get in Wednesday. I'm up at 6 in the morning. I'm out the door. Don't get back until 6 p.m. And let's just say I forgot to do the dishes when I came in. And I forgot to do some other things that, even as a NFL All-Pro, you're still a husband, a father. You still have to be that when you come home. You're only an All-Pro when you leave the house to go do your job. And so if we have a small disagreement, I'll just run to the basement and go to sleep. Now, that's not ideal. That's not something where you should do if you respect someone. Thursday comes, I get up, never address the situation. I go to practice. Friday comes, family comes in town. Now, if we were traveling for an away game, I have to leave on Saturday. But Saturday, if we were home, family would come in town. Friday, we just did not talk about that Wednesday, how my wife felt disrespected. And, I just didn't address it properly. And so Sunday comes, it's game day. Now, Sunday, I'm scored 2 touchdowns, and I'm everybody's fantasy favorite. Now you times that times the NFL season, right? Kind of a pattern. 16 weeks, times that times 4 weeks in the playoffs, times that become being nominated to a Pro Bowl or All-Pro appearances. And then the grand finale is you win a Super Bowl. So if you really multiply that and you never got back to that one Wednesday, you left a lot of things that just kind of built up. And I make no excuses. I had made the worst decision of my life, and I'm probably going to deal with it the rest of my life. And that's why I'm here today, because I had 2 decisions in my life that I said, you can live your dream. I lived my dream of being an All-Pro, winning a Super Bowl. But I also lived the nightmare where your world can unravel right in front of you. You can have it all, and it just goes just like that. And that has nothing to do with finances. It has everything to do with, does it make you less of a man or a person to ask for help? And I really think in today's era, we see a lot of things that being socially accepted is something that the age of social media makes everyone want to be socially accepted. And I think today there are more young adults crying for help on social media, and that's part of their reason for being socially accepted. My social acceptance in sports was probably the downfall in my whole entire structure. My high school coach gave me a quote that said, "Too many pats on the back will set you back." It sure set me back. And I have another quote that I'm gonna say: strength doesn't come from what you can do. It comes from overcoming the things you once thought you couldn't. I was a very fearful person, meaning I didn't want to ask for help. And I think today, the word I use is, I learned that help is great, but I became vulnerable. Vulnerable meaning that I'm not afraid of help. I'm not afraid of stepping out and saying, I need help. Because in sports, you can be the man for a moment, but you can be a man for a lifetime. I have the task and duty of being a full-time husband, full-time father. And every day I look at my 2 kids and they give me the joy of making sure that I teach my son how to be a man, not the man. And my daughter, who's going to be 9, my son is going to be 4 next month, of being a man in her life, being the man for her that represents what it's supposed to look like. And it's truly a blessing. And I say this in all due respect to all the women and all the survivors of domestic violence and things. My worst helped me bring out the best in me. I'm not proud of the way that things transpired in my life, but I'm proud that I'm still able to go out there and make a difference. And this is part of the reason today why this means so much to me because I know this is just not a sports body of kids. This is just a group of kids out there that I think is gonna change the world. Y'all are our future. And I've always said whenever I spoke, my speech is not gonna make you a better football player. It's not gonna make you a better athlete, but it will make you think like this could be me. And I'm thankful today that I'm not worried about being socially accepted, but I am worried about making a difference. And that's something that's going to mean the world to me. So we'll get back later. Thank you for allowing me to share a piece of my life with you. Looking forward to the Q&A later. I'm going to turn it back to Beth and Justin. Thank you.
All right, and thank you, Mr. Rice, for that very powerful message. I know everyone is eager to hear a little bit more from Mr. Rice, so stick around until the end of the presentation for a question and answer session. So now our next presenter is Mr. Garland Allen. And Mr. Garland Allen served in public education for more than 35 years as a teacher, athletic director, wellness director, and coach of basketball, football, and track and field. Mr. Allen is an adjunct on the faculty of NYU's Tisch Global Sports Institute. He is co-founder and partner at inCourage.com. Everyone introducing Mr. Garland Allen.
Thank you, Beth. Good afternoon to everyone. After listening to Ray share his story, there should be no doubt that the choices we make, for better or worse, can easily change the course of a person's life. With that in mind, I would like to show you how to use a decision-making process that hopefully can help you make informed, smart decisions in your daily lives. It's estimated that we make thousands of decisions every day. Most of them are unconscious. They're more like habits that become routine patterns of behavior. For example, when you tie your sneakers or your shoes, do you tie the left foot or the right foot first? That's a habit, but it's also a decision that you make. Many of our decisions are relatively small or trivial, like deciding what clothes to wear. You know, they're important to us, but these decisions rarely have a major impact on the course of our lives. While other decisions, such as choosing to wear or not wear a seatbelt, can have a major impact on our lives. We also make decisions that can have a positive effect on other people. For example, practicing good sportsmanship towards opposing players. While other decisions can cause great harm. This was a hazing incident at a high school in New Jersey. It involved the sexual assault of the younger team members. This led to the cancellation of the football season. A number of players lost their scholarship, coach lost his job, athletic director lost his job. Certainly not a smart decision. So what does a smart decision look like? It typically has these 5 things. It's made deliberately and thoughtfully. It considers and includes all relevant factors, and it's consistent with your philosophy and your values. It leads to the desired outcome, and you should be able to explain it and defend your decision. Now, this doesn't seem really complicated, and most of us could easily follow those 5 points. So why do so many people make poor decisions? Well, often they don't have the rational or logical process to guide them to make smart decisions. And they often fall prey to these common causes for making bad decisions. Having unrealistic expectations, making snap decisions, just reacting, overreacting versus responding, taking a step back and responding, and peer pressure. For your particular age group, peer pressure is extremely powerful. You should always be aware of it. But before I can begin to talk about a process for making smart decisions, it's important that we all understand 2 forces that play a major role in why we make many of our decisions. The first is our brain, the frontal lobe to be exact. It's the front portion of your skull. It's the controlling center for problem solving and social interaction, which heavily influence the type of decisions we make. This region of the brain does not fully mature until after the age of 25, making teenagers, you, particularly vulnerable to making poor decisions as your brains continue to mature and develop. Secondly, decisions big or small, good or bad, consciously or unconsciously, often reflect the culture that's been part of our lives, the biases of the families we grow up in, the communities we live in, the people we associate with, and the role models in our lives. They all impact how we see and react to the world around us. Now, that doesn't mean that your decisions are predetermined or you're going to be a helpless victim of your brain or your culture. Because the more you are aware of how you make your decisions, the more control you will have over your impulses. Make unconscious decisions more conscious-like and learn to respond, not overreact to stressful situations. It's the attitudes and the behavior that you display in the present that ultimately determine the quality of the decisions as you move forward. So be careful about the details in your life. What you choose today can impact your life forever. You can go a long way to accomplishing this by becoming socially and emotionally competent in these 5 areas. 1, don't become a victim of your past by living there. For example, children that grow up in households where there's domestic violence are actually more likely to engage in domestic violence as adults than kids that grow up in supportive and respectful households. Become self-aware. Recognize how your emotions, thoughts, and values influence your behavior. Now that begins by acknowledging who you are at this moment in time. Next, try to control your emotions, your thoughts, your behaviors, and impulses by visualizing how you should react in certain situations before they actually occur. For example, what would you do if you saw a bad post about yourself online? Visualizing will make it much easier to deal with it if it actually happens. Be socially aware. Try to take the perspective of and have empathy with the social and ethical norms of behavior of other people and their emotional state. Now, that doesn't mean taking ownership for what they are feeling. Avoid saying, I know how you feel. Only they know how they feel. Just let them know you care. And lastly, communicate clearly. Listen well, cooperate with others, and resist inappropriate social pressure and seek help when it's needed. Now we're ready to actually talk about the 6-step process that you can use to make smart decisions. Number 1, try to clearly define the nature of the decision that you must make. This step is very, very important. Next, gather all the relevant information. Collect some pertinent information before you make your decision. What information is needed, the best sources of information, and how to get it. Now, this involves internal and external work. That means you may have to reach outside of yourself to get some of the information. Next, identify the alternatives. As you collect this information, you will probably identify several possible paths of actions or alternatives. You can also use your imagination and additional information to construct new alternatives. In this step, you will list all the possible and desirable alternatives. Choose among the alternatives. Once you have weighed all the evidence, you're now ready to select the alternative that seems to be the best one for you. You may even choose a combination of the alternatives. Next, it's time to take action. You're now ready to select one of the alternatives and implement it. Finally, review your decisions and its consequences in this final step. Consider the results of your decision. Evaluate whether or not it has resolved the needs you identified in step 1. If the decision has not met the identified need, you may want to repeat certain steps or the process to make a new decision. Now, there's no guarantee that following this process or other processes will always lead to making the right decision. But most smart decision makers use a step-by-step system of some kind when they're making the big and impactful life decisions, like what school to go to or who to marry. Now let me finish with this. You will make mistakes along the way. Take advantage of the lessons that you learn from making those mistakes and use them to help you make better choices going forward. Good luck. And hopefully you'll have an enjoyable school year coming up when this COVID situation settles down. And now back to Justin and Beth.
Thank you, Mr. Island, for that advice that I'm pretty sure we all can carry on later in our life. Thank you. And now we introduce Wayne McDonald. Wayne G. McDonald Jr. has been intimately involved in sports management education, sports media, and coaching for nearly 2 decades. He's the academic chair and professor at Tisch Sports Institute at NYU. He's a Forbes Sports Money contributor and has appeared on the multiple national media outlets to discuss issues regarding the game of baseball. Mr. McDonald is a co-founder and partner at inCourage.com. On to you.
Justin, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. It is safe to say the past few months have provided us with long periods of reflection. We have spent quality time thinking about what we have lost, but also ways in which we can improve, both as athletes and young men and women. One topic of interest is how ethics can help guide us in making smarter decisions. So, what is ethics? How does it factor into the decision-making process? Ethics is a conception of right and wrong conduct. It is an inner voice that offers guidance. Sadly, it is not a little cricket telling you to let your conscience be your guide. In many ways, ethics serves as a GPS navigation system that plays a pivotal role in helping you make decisions. Life experiences, family, and religion are the foundation in which we build our code of ethics. Just for a moment, think about the construction of a building. If the foundation is weak, there is a high probability the building will likely sustain damage or even crumble when faced with stressful conditions. Therefore, we need to build a rock-solid foundation when it comes to ethics. Our foundation of ethics is also shaped by relationships outside of the home. Coaches, teachers, and friends play a pivotal role in the development of your moral compass. A code of ethics should only be influenced by the greatest attributes of people who have earned your respect and admiration. There are 4 pillars that you should consider when cultivating your foundation of ethics. Morality, religious or spiritual. Principles, personal beliefs influenced by family and life experiences. Relationships, how do coaches, teachers, and friends inspire you to become a better person? And trust, role models who have earned your respect through integrity, strength, and confidence. Peer pressure is one of the greatest adversaries to ethics. Teenagers are always trying to fit in, and sometimes bad decisions can have lasting effects that can dramatically alter one's life. It's quite helpful to have a game plan in place when confronting decisions that make you feel uncomfortable and challenge your foundation of ethics. Before you act, ask yourself 4 ethical questions. 1, will the decision I make negatively affect my character? 2, will I feel guilt or remorse for my actions? 3, will I be a responsible person after making my decision? And 4, am I respecting myself and others in the decision? Ethics sets the tone for how we communicate with others and build meaningful relationships. It goes well beyond words and actions. Ethics is an instantaneous feeling, a gut instinct that immediately lets you know the difference between right and wrong. Sometimes Life experiences, religion, and upbringing can negatively influence our personal code of ethics through absence or just poor examples. So, how can we fix it? Use the higher test to determine if you need help with your personal code of ethics. HIRE. Are you an honest person? What does integrity mean to you? How do you respect others? When have you shown empathy towards someone? Ethics is like a savings account in a bank. The more knowledge and experience, money, you accumulate, the better off you will be in handling difficult situations, that rainy day. A personal code of ethics is your unique imprint that can leave a lasting impression in the decision-making process. Thank you, and now back to Beth and Justin.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald, for offering your guidance in making ethical decisions. I'm sure all of us can carry that into our lives in the future. Our next presenter is Mr. Steve Young. Steve Young has been a teacher, coach, and administrator in public and private schools for 35 years. He's currently the Director of Athletics for the City School District of New Rochelle, New York. Mr. Young is a co-founder and partner at inCourage.com. At the end, please welcome Mr. Young.
Thank you, Beth, for that introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. So how does your decision-making affect the team, the club, the organization that you're part of? As we speak about decisions we make as individuals, it's going to have an effect, be it positive and negative, on those around us. Think about the pebble that you might throw in the water and the ripples that are created by that one toss in the water and how far it reaches. Why? The organization begins with a group of individuals. They're the foundation. The individuals come together and form teammates, which then forms the culture. Culture can be thought of as the way we do things here. What people believe, the chemistry of the individuals, and the environment will shape the culture. If people feel connected and engaged, the culture will be positive. If people are disengaged or don't feel part of the organization, then the culture becomes negative. When the culture is positive, the organization is going to have success. If the culture is negative, then the goals of the organization fall short. What do successful teams have in common? I have up here the Patriots, New Rochelle football, New Canaan football, Play Hamilton. All of these organizations are successful. The Patriots have set the standard in the NFL with 20 years of unprecedented success. There's strong leadership there, and they always speak of the Patriot way. The Play Hamilton has had great success, almost unprecedented on Broadway, because of their leadership and the creativity. My family and I went to see Hamilton on Easter Sunday last year. With it being a holiday, the entire cast was comprised of understudies. Those individuals didn't view themselves as backups, nor did they minimize their position within the organization. They didn't go out the night before and do silly things. They were focused on what they had to do. They put on a performance that was so good, we didn't think of them as just understudies. They knew their role, they were engaged in the culture, and consequently, the show went on without an issue, and the audience left with a positive feeling. The UConn women's basketball team has been setting records for the past 25 years. Coach Ariema once described the commitment of his players as he was talking about a snowstorm one day that prevented the coaches from going onto campus. The players spoke to the coach in the morning and they said, we're going to take care of this. They went to the regular practice in the gym at 7 a.m. They set up the practice just as they would have if the coach was there. The managers were there. They set up the cameras. The players went through practice. The practice was videoed. But the coach never watched the film. He was so confident in the team that they got the work done. He didn't have to worry about it. So the common denominator is A great team culture is when everyone is working towards the same goal. Culture will eat talent for lunch. Your culture will always overcome a team with talent will overcome based on culture. At the professional level, as Ray Rice could tell you, there's not much difference in talent between teams, but a great example of culture being important can be compared with the Patriots and the Washington Football Club, which is formerly known as the Redskins, an organization with a multitude of problems that go through their entire staff. So positive culture will always have positive results, not just the wins and losses. Winning is a byproduct of everything you do. You take responsibility for each other, not just a practice or a club meeting, but all the time. You hold each other accountable, be on time, follow through on any obligations you may have to your group. Have respect for each other and the value that each person brings to the table. You have to be willing to put your team's goals or organization's goals ahead of your personal goals. If you work hard and contribute, you'll be amazed at how much you have achieved, and most importantly, learn from being part of this whole experience. So what does this have to do with decision making? Your positive or negative actions off the field can have an effect on the team and the energy of the group. Would any of the groups I previously mentioned be successful without the buy-in from the individuals? It wouldn't happen. People need to see the best of you. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect, because as Mr. Allen said, we make thousands of decisions every day, but you have to learn from your mistakes and continue to become the best version of you. If you remember the ESPN radio show in the morning of Mike Greenberg and Mike Golick, Mike and Mike, they always used to come back every day and Greeny would go, we're back and better than ever. And that's what we want from all of you. So as you embark on this year, I wish you a great year, and I hope you have a lot of memories, and I hope you make all the best of all the opportunities afforded to you. Thank you for having me, and I'm going to turn this back to Beth and Justin. Thank you.
All right, and thank you, Mr. Young, for that wonderful message that I'm sure everyone can apply to their own lives. So up next is our question and answer session with Ray Rice and Dr. Marianne Engel. So Dr. Marianne Engel is a licensed clinical psychologist and sports psychologist whose clients have been elite and professional athletes on pro teams. Currently on the faculty of the NYU Langone Medical School, she has held faculty appointments at Harvard, MIT, and UCSD. Dr. Engel is co-founder and partner at inCourage.com. Please welcome Dr. Engel and Ray Rice back for a Q&A session.
Hello, it's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. I hope you've really enjoyed everything you've heard, because as students, you don't always get to hear such outstanding speakers, and you've got it today. And Ray, thank you again for being here and being so open and direct. My first question for you is that if you now could speak to your 16-year-old self, what do you wish somebody had said to you? What would you say to yourself?
I wish someone at 16 would have told me that asking for help was something was normal. You know, I just, yeah, my 16-year-old self, you know, I'm 33 now, but I felt like at 16, I felt older than what I really was because of the responsibilities I had in my household, and just foreshadowing. I said I was the man of the house at 11 years old, and I became a boy at 21. That might have sounds crazy, but right in that middle point where you're 16, you wish someone would have, I wish I had the resources that I know now, where, I talk to a counselor, I speak to my psychiatrist, and it just made me, it actually slowed things down for me. It's probably the best thing I've done in my, I would say, I don't want to call myself old, but younger, getting up there years of just understanding that experience, these things happen. And the best teacher now is experience. And I'm thankful to be able to share these experiences of asking for help is normal. I mean, it might sound cliche that it sounds easy, but until you're in that bind, you like looking left or right and don't know where to go, that's when it's really going to make sense. And I hope today that this makes sense, and it makes sense before something, before it spirals out of control. And that's kind of where I was.
Thank you so much. And to all of you listening, I think what he's saying to you is that if there are things that are going on that you really can't figure out, or that you are affecting other people with, ask for help or talk to other people about it. It's not a secret. For Ray, it was a secret because for him, life was so intense. But one of the things that I want to talk about, Ray, is how successful you've been. From the time you were a kid, you've worked really, really hard at your sports, at your athletics, at your loyalty to your family. And sadly, nobody ever taught you how to deal with frustration and anger, right? And I think as a society, we're not good at that. And the people, all of you listening, this is not just men, this is not just athletes. Women have this issue too, and girls do. And I was hoping, Ray, that you might say something to both the girls and the boys who are listening about anger, rage, frustration, and how it can be, a lot of athletes also have a lot of emotionality, shall we say. And sometimes, it just goes with the program, but it doesn't have to overwhelm you. It doesn't have to be who you become, who you are. So can we talk a little bit about that, Ray?
Oh, yes. I mean, I can give a better example, and I think that this does apply to, whether you're an athlete or not. It has something to do with, if you love something, I'm sure we all do, when you love something and you become time consumed with it, you're going to do whatever you can to be successful at it. For me in sports, I thought that by playing sports, I can tackle someone or run over someone and not get in trouble. And, like I said, we were what we seen. And this is probably the not so proud moments, because in sports, you get praised. Like football, when I was playing, I started playing when I was 7 years old. And there were times in games where, you kind of get praised for hurting someone. And you think of that emotion, like where you can hurt someone and not get in trouble. You multiply that, those actions don't change, unless you pump the brakes on it. Now, I'm sitting here in a position where I'm the commissioner of a youth football league, and I will have the authority. If I find out a coach is teaching that someone is going out there to try to maliciously hurt someone, I have to remove that coach, possibly even go to the extremity of getting the police involved. So when you're talking about someone that has went full circle with it, I think that now that I've gotten help and made it, it's normal to have emotion. It's not normal to take out those emotions on people. That's why you have clinical help. That's why you have, that's why you have guidance counselors. That's why you have coaches. That's why there are more resources out there today than I've ever seen. The one thing you can't do as well is I've realized that it's when you go to pour your emotions out on social media, that's a different vulnerability right there. you're almost putting yourself out there to be bullied, to be antagonized, to be talked about. So there's certain things that I believe that you should keep private. And if you need the help, it doesn't make you less of a person. It just makes you stronger, that you know deep down inside, deep in there, if you're asking for help, you know that that's the start to revamping what's going on. But you're only going to get to that place by settling down and starting fresh. And I'm thankful to have a fresh start. My fresh start is not on the football field, but it is with 2 kids, and it is just living everyday life. I have to live what I'm talking the rest of my life. And I have no problem with that bullseye on my back, because you know what? I'm going to score a lot of real points, not fantasy points, by being able to live out what I'm talking about. So that's where I'm at with it.
Thank you. That's great. Well, back to social media just quickly. I know everybody listening to this has some feelings about social media and the pressure. There's joys with social media and the pressure. And I think please listen to Ray's advice about being very careful about what you post on social media. First of all, you know that colleges look at your social media. So make sure you haven't put anything there that colleges are going to say, we don't want you. But the other thing is, think about your own emotional status. And if you start putting your whole heart and soul out there in social media, as Ray says, you are just asking to be demolished. So be careful. Ray, I have another question for you, and that is, what advice would you give to the people who love and cherish the relationships with their partners, their boyfriends, their girlfriends, who do have these issues with anger? What kind of advice can you give them?
Well, without sounding like a relationship expert, but the best advice I can give is, there's a word in there. It's called respect.
Yeah.
And when you can define respect in many different ways. If you really call yourself loving someone and caring for them, and that love usually shows when you're not in sync. Because if you're truly in sync, someone says they're going to take the higher route of apologizing or taking a step forward. The way it goes in my household now, where I'm going to give you a live example on what works for us. And
Okay.
Me and my wife have sports is in our house. So what makes sense for us is time out and time in. And when you love and respect someone, you have to be a good listener. And sometimes being a good listener, you're not gonna if you're being told about yourself,
You don't want to hear it.
you don't want to hear it.
No, you don't.
So we time out, because I know that if my wife is talking, I can't be on the other side of crafting my response to that. So I time myself out, knowing that I don't want to have an emotional response. I might not like what she's saying, but I respect her enough to listen. Because if I'm crafting a response, I'm really not listening.
That's right.
Our rule of thumb is, I got to time myself back in before we go to bed, because I don't like to sleep on it. We're not going to push it under the rug. But when I do that, I might have to go work out, go blow some steam off. But you know what? It's a respect factor. I listen. And I think I didn't listen early on in my, career. And that's part of the reason why you sweep a lot of problems underneath the rug. And so I think if you truly love your partner, just become a better listener. And it's like all these things sound easy. They really do sound easy. But and another thing is, because I'm always social media cognizant now, I would say, if you truly love your partner, I'm okay with you know, a picture of you together, but your whole relationship should not be on social media, you
Absolutely.
know, and I'm going to be a big advocate of that because social media is something that if you give it to them, they run with it. It's your resume. It's something that became bigger than what it was supposed to be.
Right.
It was supposed to connect people, but it's using more as a divisive method at this point. So I'm not against it, just want to be able to protect the future and let that not be something that's part of your brand. Because you don't want to be the most successful person, then they go dig back 20 years and say, okay, he said this, she said that, he went through that. I know what it feels like, so I'm just very cautious of that. But if you respect your partner, be a better listener.
Well, I think the importance of privacy and respect is it's truly important, truly important. One of the things that I've heard you say, and I loved it, is that vulnerability is a superpower.
It is.
Can you talk about that just for a few minutes? Yeah.
I mean, I think vulnerability being a superpower, I think we all have a superhero in us. And I think my superhero path was being vulnerable. I was like the almighty guy. I can lift, I can run, but being vulnerable allowed me to feel someone else's pain. It allowed me to feel emotion. It allowed me to make me like, you don't have to be so masculine at times. Like, you know, I don't have to feel like I got to lift the house and go, you know, I got to be able to, like, I got to sense when something's wrong. And the only way you're going to sense that is if you're vulnerable. Because if you're not vulnerable, the other side of vulnerable is selfish. And you don't want to be on that side of selfish, because when you're selfish, you really can't feel someone else's pain, struggle. It becomes about me, not about us. I think that, and that superpower to feel someone else's pain is how I can detect if my wife worked too hard during the day. Well, you know what? I'll go get the 2 kids. I'll step in. Me being vulnerable allows me to look at my kid. I can tell if he's flushed. Let me go take his temperature. You know, but if I didn't step outside of myself, if I would have always stayed in warrior mode and, you know, wasn't sensitive to these things, then I would have been selfish. And I think that superpower has allowed me to not only be a great dad, it's allowed me to be a good husband at this point, because I'm literally doing something that I wasn't used to doing. I was used to going out, you know, ignoring things, taking care of, you know, but I got to take care of football. And now it's just like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, I mean, and it's a hard adjustment. It's a hard adjustment coming from like winning a Super Bowl. And, you know, I can be open and honest because I still get anxiety during football season. And I'm not even playing.
Uh-huh.
And I have to literally see my psychiatrist, because there are times when I've faced seasonal depression.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm able to acknowledge those things because I'm vulnerable to them. Yes. I wouldn't have been able to diagnose or go to see somebody about that because I would have been too shameful to say, hey, when football season comes, you know what, Sunday comes, I'm still, like, sometimes I get the itch and sometimes I don't feel well. But I end up feeling better now because I'm able to tell you guys about it and let you know that it's real. It's something that it's going to be a part of my life for a long time. Only way I'm going to be able to tackle it is I continue to be vulnerable and ask for help. So it is my superpower.
It is your superpower. You know, I've worked with a lot of teams, a lot of athletes, and the difference between being a successful athlete and wishing to be a successful athlete is not that much. But the difference is the focus on the athletics, the care, the working hard, and the teamwork.
Yep.
And one of the things that you were talking about was what happens now in your league when you see coaches who are treating the athletes inappropriately. And I love the idea of you retraining these coaches if possible, because most coaches don't get that kind of learning that they should about how to make teams really work. And one of the coaches that I once worked with in California, actually, of one of the top high school teams that won the state championships over and over, I asked him, "What is your secret?" And he said to me, "My secret is that I tell my team that we are only as good as our worst player. And if all of us work together to improve everyone, and I'll teach you how to do that, then we can be a winner." Does that make sense to you?
I believe that totally, because I've been a part of a lot of winning teams, and I can tell you that winning a Super Bowl literally, I mean, I teach life through sports, and I guess this will resonate with the group. My theory on sports is very simple now, because when you come from sports or anywhere, I know that you can come from, like, there are going to be guys in the locker room that come from my demographic, the projects, bad area, whatever you want to call it, low income. They're going to be from that part of it. There's also going to be guys come from very, affluent neighborhoods that got a lot of money, the farm, or just something that's not like city-like. Truth of the matter is, doesn't matter where you come from. If you're not willing to sacrifice or give up for the person next to you, and you don't figure it out, you're gonna lose. You're not only gonna lose games in the sports field. What you're gonna do is lose in life. And it's kind of how I kind of see things. I'm like, you see everything going on. You see the divide going on in the country, but they don't see these moments where people are coming together. And I think we need more of this, because a lot of it's not been figured out. But as long as we can control our locker room, we can be voices of change. And that's that's why I got into youth football. That's why I love doing these Zoom calls. That's why I just like being out there. But I know that it feels a lot better now because I've taken care of home first. Like, I wouldn't be able to do any of what I'm doing, and it makes sense because I took care of home first. I did it the reverse way. I was helping people while I was playing because I was ashamed of being home. That might sound crazy. You ever see someone that will help, that just wants to help, but when you go to peel back the layer, they're helping because they're avoiding. You don't want to help and avoid at the same time, because when you're no longer able to do your job or help, and you have to sit in that void, that is a sick feeling. Because when football was no longer there, you're talking about some dark days. I couldn't even tell you what kind of depression that felt like. That felt like my world ended. It felt like the world was over. And it wasn't until my wife and like my kids and things that I realized that they love me more than myself right now. They love me more than me. How can I give up on them? So, I mean, a lot of powerful things go on when you when you're at the bottom. And that's when it's truly meaningful to ask for help and surround yourself by people that can really get you out of that rut.
Ray, I cannot thank you enough for your wisdom, your openness, and I really hope that all of you who are listening can take this and use it for yourselves. I want to give you just a quick little summary of what we've had, and thank you, and then we'll be open to questions. So for all of you who've been listening, Garland said to you, use mistakes to help you learn and move forward. Wayne said to you, self-respect and ethics. Think hard about what's right and what's wrong. Communicate with others. And Steve Young said to you, culture will eat talent for lunch. Everyone needs to be working on the same goals. And I'm going to say to you, you are so early in your lives. There are so many things that are going to happen, but you're at a point in your lives now where people care about where you're heading. So make sure your values are under control. Make sure you eat well. Make sure you sleep well. Make sure you surround yourself with people who are kind and worth being around. If people are not kind to you, if people are upsetting to you, find other people. Find ways to move on. Find ways to have a very busy, intellectually stimulating, socially stimulating, a lot of good sports, and think hard about your future, because the future really is you. And we are depending on you guys to take care of the world in the future. So I'm going to hand you back now to Beth and Jason, and thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Engel, for your questions that you asked Mr. Rice. Those definitely clarified and revealed a lot more about his story. So now we are opening it up to a question and answer for everyone who has participated on the panel so far. So if you have any questions, direct them to the question and answer feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. All right, our first question is for Mr. Rice, and it is a little bit of a more personal and deep question. So if you don't mind answering it, though, I think it could clarify a lot of your message and what you've been sharing. So Jack is wondering if you can go into more detail of your actions that caused some issues in your career regarding your wife, and he's sure that many students today might not be aware of the actual situation that you're speaking about, and he thinks it might clarify some of the points that you've been trying to make. So if you don't mind answering.
Yes, yeah, I was just to put it out there without making any excuses, I was involved in a domestic violence incident with my wife where I was out drinking and I made a terrible decision in hitting my wife. And it was, over a night that went wrong, and there's 50 more things I can go through like before that, but it doesn't excuse anything that it was the worst moment of my life. And that's part of the decision making that led to the downfall of my career. And I got cut by the Ravens, and I was with the Baltimore Ravens. I got cut. My life unraveled over that terrible decision, which made me my running back. It made me run back to my life before all of this, and it had me go back to like what went wrong early in my life, because I'm open and candid and honest that I've never been in any trouble with the law. I've never had any kind of wrongs in my life, but a lot went wrong. So, and it just, things weren't adding up. How could someone be doing so good, but do so bad, do something so bad. And only one that was going to have that answer was me. And I had to go back to the things that hurt me the most. And the things that hurt me the most was normalizing those abnormal things. I mean, my dad was shot and killed when I was a baby. Okay, I mean, I carried that burden. I also learned that now I'm at 33 where my last name's Rice. I found out 2 years ago that my dad died on my grandfather's birthday. You know, these are things that constantly come up when you're not dealing with things. You know, I also found out that my last name's Rice and not Reed because my dad was in jail. He wasn't there to sign my birth certificate. These are the things that when you go back to without making any excuses, these are layers of your life that have to get peeled off. And you know, like even in relationships with my mother, you know, and I that was a great question that you asked me to go into detail because I didn't want to take up too much time, you know, so I can get to the Q&A and, you know, share some things. But even with my own like mother, right? I said a blended family. So my stepfather, I have 2 younger brothers and a sister. And I seen my mom and my stepfather, they were married, but I watched the marriage kind of go in a different direction. And that's when I felt like I became the man of the house, when my stepfather left. And my mom started looking for love in all the wrong places. And my sister's father is not the same as my stepfather. So you're talking about a nice blended family. My sister's father was a full-blown, you know, crackhead. And I watched things grow up like that. Like these are the things that I think about growing up, normalizing these abnormal things. And by my sister's father being on drugs, you know, I heard Beth mention bikes, and I love bikes. I used to build bikes, and it was one of the things I loved to do. But because my sister's father was on drugs, every bike I built, he stole. So what did I do during these times? I didn't have nowhere to go but sports. So, but to put the clarity in there, that doesn't excuse what I did. It just made it easier for me to be a volcano because I ignored everything. And when you ignored everything, eventually you're gonna erupt. And I mean, the old saying is, you know, hurt people hurt people. And I wish I would have dealt with my emotions and channeled my energy into getting help before my world unraveled. And that's why this message is important, because we're all volcanoes, you know, but we want to be the ones that they can keep under control.
Thank you. Ray, this one is for you again. Where do you see yourself going in the future?
The future is now. Now, in the future, honestly, I think that I try not to look too far ahead, but I do look forward to helping out as many kids as possible, raising my 2 kids. I have a young daughter whose name is Raven. It's Rayven. She's going to be 9 in January. And my son, Jalen. And Jalen is going to be 4 in September. And I'm just looking forward to living a complete life. I think when I've set goals, and I think I've set the professional goals. I think in terms of life goals, I want to be able to go on as many walks in the parks with my kids and play with them until I'm 110 years old. Hopefully, I can still walk by then.
All right, thank you again, Mr. Rice. So we have another one directed to you, which is, what would you say to someone who's afraid to ask for help?
What would I say to someone who's afraid to ask for help? Beth, would you mind telling me if this person is a male or female?
Hold on, let me check. Sounds like they are male. Patrick.
Patrick, well, it does not make you less of a man to ask for help. If you're afraid, I think that that's almost part of like you overcoming that fear. And once you do ask for that help and you get the right, you understand that it's a burden lifted off your back, I think that you're gonna feel so much better if you do ask for help, because it's a burden lifted off your back. Like the best thing that ever happened to me was when I asked for help, and it just made me feel like I was free. And I really think I recommend it to anyone. I think that some of the help is right in front of you. And but you should be mindful who you do ask for help. And I think everyone that's in this group, CAS, the CIAC, and inCourage, I think we'll all be here, if you needed any advice. I think you can reach out to one of the directors, and we can take this conversation deeper if you needed some extensive help.
This is for everyone that spoke. What's one piece of advice you guys would give? It can be for anybody.
Hi, can I answer that then? Well, the one piece of advice is smile. There's so much to enjoy in life, and we are in a very strange period of time right now. We're wondering when things will normalize, and we don't really know when. But there's so much else you can be doing with your time, and find the things that give you joy, and make sure that the people that give you joy know how you feel about them, and take time to develop your mind and to keep yourself healthy, and it'll pass. And it'll move on. And you want to look back on this time, because really these kinds of periods have happened in history before. The last one was over 100 years ago. And you're going to be able to tell your children about this. So make sure there's something wonderful and interesting to tell them. That's my advice.
All right, so that was actually all the questions we have time for. So if the rest of the panel members also want to respond to that same question that Dr. Engel just did, that would probably be a good way to close it out. Just for each person to say one piece of advice that they would give to high school students.
I think for me, the piece of advice that I would give really is to piggyback on what Dr. Engel had said, but most importantly, find balance in your life. Yeah, it's a great opportunity right now to learn what's important to you. And I think we all learned the importance of family during this pandemic, but most importantly, taking care of yourself, your schoolwork, your athletics, your extracurricular activities, but maintain a sense of balance. Moderation is the key.
I would say at this time in your life that high school athletics or clubs, whatever you do, is a memory. Create memories. All right, make it enjoyable. Take part in as much as you can, and just have a lot of fun. Keep smiling. Not everything has to be so serious. Ray did a lot about social media. Don't think that everybody that's posting things on social media is happy and that you have to compete. Just enjoy yourself and enjoy your friends, and know that through this time, a lot of things that we've missed is sometimes that contact with people, not just the Zooms, but I know, like for me personally right now, I've had some great conversations with Ray in the last 2 months that have been phenomenal, right? That we haven't had a chance to do. So a lot of times life is a soundbite. So enjoy those moments when you can connect with friends or family, and when you get back together and you're back in your normal routine, enjoy those and make lasting memories out of it. And if you want to write a journal about it, journal it. You know, do something to improve yourself, and just have a good time.
I have something very simple to add. For each of us, it takes a tremendous amount of courage to wake up every morning and to simply be yourself, to be comfortable in your own skin. And for so many of us, it's a waste of time trying to be the person that you think other people want you to be, or that person that you think other people think you are. That does not lead to a good place in the long run. But I would simply say that have the courage to simply be who you are and be yourself.
And I would just say, I'm gonna go to the kids. I'm gonna go to the youth generation's lingo. So growing up, when we got dressed and everything, we always said we wanted to stay fly. So I'm gonna just use fly, meaning first love yourself. Because if you love yourself, you'll do the right thing when you got to take care of everyone else. If you don't love yourself, you're only going to take care of everyone else because you're forgetting to take care of yourself. So stay fly. First love yourself and have a good time while you're doing it.
All right, those are all awesome pieces of advice, and thank you guys for all taking the time out of your day today to come and share with the younger generation, I guess, your pieces of advice that you have learned over your entire life. So that actually brings our conference to a close, and we hope that everyone enjoyed today's conference. Please look out for the many leadership experiences that we offer throughout the school year. A feedback form and resources for topics covered will be emailed to you in the next few days. We appreciate your feedback as we are always looking for ways to improve our leadership experiences and provide resources for you to bring back to your own schools.
And thank you for everybody that spoke today. Yeah, thank you for everybody for speaking, and the best of luck to everybody in their 2021 school year.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.